On mic today, we have Deana Dolphin, known to parts of the internet as Captain Deana Dolphin. How are you doing this fine day?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
I am doing great. I am so glad to talk to you.
Finally.
Yeah, it's been a bit. We've
Yes.
been. You used to live in Oklahoma. That kind of stopped. We didn't get a chance to meet up until
I
then.
should have come down. I feel so bad. I'm like, you're in Norman. It's just a hop and a skip. And my cousin lives there. I could have made a day of it.
Oh,
So, but next time I'm in town, we'll have to meet up for sure.
yeah. Just tell me which place you like to have lunch, and we'll make that happen.
Definitely. Actually, I've never really been to Norman, so it would be a whole new place to be.
Couple of places I could recommend very easily.
Oh, good. Well, then, yeah, maybe I'll let you pick. You just, time and day. And yeah, I go to Oklahoma. I go back to Oklahoma every couple months to, see my family and friends and stuff. So it's kind of like what I was doing before I moved, but now it's reverse. I go back to Oklahoma to see, my family, my friends. They miss me, and I understand. So, yeah.
Well, if you're in the MST3K fandom, people are either not going to know you at all, or they're going to think you're the best person who ever lived.
Or they're going to hate me. I do have some people who aren't my biggest fans, and that's
really?
Okay. Oh, well, yeah. It's okay, though. That, not everyone has to get along. The thing is that as long as we're respectful to each other, we still love the same things.
True.
And so, as one of my favorite drag queens used to say, water off a duck's back. So it is what it is. You move on and keep, living your best life.
That is the way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, so. But yeah, so I do know a lot of people in the fandom.
Well, you've made yourself what you call the fan ambassador. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I kind of I haven't exactly put it on a business card or anything, but I do like to think of myself as the fan ambassador. Yeah, fan ambassador.
That is the most badass title I have ever heard.
I think so too. Yeah, I should get I should get a little name tag or something. But yeah.
Wait,
so yeah, it's because. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sure, you're the guest.
Oh, I know, right? I get to talk about myself, which is pretty awesome. No, just because, I love MST3K, and we can talk more about that too. But part of it isn't so much the show, it's the fans and the people that I've got to meet over the past. Well, I've been a fan for, since the 90s, but I didn't really get into the fandom until about it was when I moved to Oklahoma. So it's been a good 6 years, but really getting out there and meeting the other fans and doing things with the other fans, whether it's in person or online. So that to me is what I love the most, is meeting other fans and then, taking those relationships beyond just MST3K. So that's why I kind of consider myself the fan ambassador. I'll tell you a secret, Aaron, and only a few people know this. I haven't seen every episode of MST3K.
Oh my.
I know. It's shocking, right? But it's because that always gives me something new to watch. When I'm ready to sit down and watch, even if it's like an old Joel episode, I know it's something I haven't seen before. So I kind of, it's a weird thing that I do. But again, the fans are really kind of what make the show for me. At least now, back in the 90s, it was just about the show. I was very young, not trying to date myself or anything, but I met up with some MSTies recently who were like, "Oh, were you in the AOL chat rooms back when the show was on there?" I'm like, I was 11. So no, I didn't get the internet until after I graduated high school. But it's so cool to know that fans have been getting together since then. Like way back then, they would, go to Minneapolis and have their own little mini cons. And someday, if I become rich and famous, I will put on a con somewhere where everybody could come. And, that would be great. Just meet even more fans. So, yeah.
So if we look at your journey, if you're saying you've been a fan for 6 years, that would be 2013, 2014. You found the show?
No, that's kind of where I became more active in the fandom.
Okay.
I first found the show the one time it aired on MTV. They played Alien from LA. This was 94, so I believe. So I was 13, 14, flipping through the channels in my room, and I knew who Kathy Ireland was. And so I just like, okay, what's this? And she's talking in that squeaky voice, and I'm like, okay. And it totally clicked with the sense of humor that I already had, thanks to my dad. And I just sat and watched. I was like, okay. And so I would watch it, late nights and whenever I could. The funniest thing is my tattoo. I do have an MST2K tattoo. And of course, I had to get it designed and tattooed by a gentleman. He's not a little boy anymore. When he was a little boy, I would babysit him and I would watch him MST3K like once he'd gone to sleep. And he grew up to become a tattoo artist, and so I was like, he's the obvious choice to give me this MST3 tattoo because it was kind of like a full circle. But really, and then mid 2000s when they really started coming out with the box sets, the Rhino sets. I picked up several of them. This was my very first MST3K shirt I bought off eBay like in 2000. I kind of got more into it. Of course, like many of us, I did have VHS tapes of MST3K taped off of Sci-Fi and the Comedy Central, or it was Comedy Network back then. But yeah, so I really became more, like I said, I've been a fan and known about the show, and I've come back to it several times throughout my life. And most recently, like I said, within the past 6 years, kind of once I moved to Oklahoma, I didn't really know a whole lot of people, and so I was online. I joined up some Facebook groups and things, and then the Kickstarter happened, and then our fandom blew up. We were the Revival League. So, we brought back the show, and that helped launch a lot of social media presence for the show and for the show's predecessors, like Riff Tracks, to where, people who knew MST3K didn't know about Riff Tracks, or people who knew about Riff Tracks didn't know about MST3K. So it was able to help kind of merge a lot more fans. I think that Kickstarter really, it changed my life. I don't know how else to say it, but it really did, because it helped me get out and be more active in some of what I consider hobbies. Like I like party planning and bringing people together, and doing things like that, and which I had done previously. But when I moved to Oklahoma, I didn't have any kind of network, so I kind of created it for myself, online. And yeah, it changed my life. If it hadn't been for that Kickstarter, I wouldn't know. My friends that I have today that I call, family, would not be my family if it wasn't for the Kickstarter. So, wow, I never thought about it like that before. That's pretty cool. So.
Well, family is just the people that you bond with the most. And
that's very true.
I used to say that the difference between friends and family is my friends will help me move, my family will help me move a body. That's the difference.
I don't know. Yeah, I got some who would do both. I just can't tell them where I bury it, though. That's the thing. Never tell them where it's buried, or you burn it. Anyways, we're going down a dark path that way. So.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I know. I'm sure. Excuse me. Like I said, I got this cough.
So
that time of year. So
we're at a point now where we're actually, the show is in a bit of a dark place itself. We've gone.
I want a hiatus. No one has used that word yet, and I really like it's a hiatus. We took a 20-year hiatus. We can handle a little bit more. I know a lot of people are really disappointed. And of course, there were the people who didn't care for the Netflix reboot, revival. But I haven't lost hope. But I also look at it, I try to look at it logically. Joel is 60 years old. Did you go to the OKC show last week?
I did not get a chance to go.
Oh, sad face. I'm sorry. It was a good show. I wasn't there, but I have been to the tour, and it was awesome. And it was his 60th birthday, so that's kind of leads me back to he's 60 years old. I mean, and I think fans have to realize that, and many of them are in his age bracket, to where do you want to continue to do? I mean, of course it's a labor of love, but also Joel's not getting any younger. He's, I don't want to say past the torch, but I like Jonah. I like Jonah a lot. I really didn't know him before MST3K, but I've watched his stand up since. I've gone to a concert or two of his. I've met him several times. He is just an amazing person, and he's a true fan. He's not just some Hollywood, person that Joel picked up and threw on the show. He is an actual fan of MST3K. So I, to people out there, I'm like, don't give up hope. Keep watching the shows, keep spreading the word, the hashtags, all that fun stuff. But just try not to be negative about it, but also look at it realistically.
Yeah.
We don't know. I know that, on the tour and at Jonah's shows, people have asked him, asked both Joel and him, so what's going on? And they're like, we're working on it. We're working on it. Yes, it's not on Netflix anymore, but we're working on it. And, even if they kept just kind of doing these tours, which I know, oh my goodness, I can't imagine. Well, I know the tour schedule for these folks, and I can't imagine, being away from home for that long. This tour lasted about a year. It's finally coming to an end soon, but, that's strenuous.
It is.
It can take a toll on your body, on your relationships with your family and friends. And I don't think a lot of fans really think about that when they complain about stuff. But, I wouldn't mind seeing it continue like that, because live riffing, if you've never been, go. It's a completely different experience than watching it on TV or wherever. It really, because there's the fumbles and there's the stage presence that you just don't get through the TV. But if they kept touring, maybe did another tour next year, I think keeping it relevant and on the radar would help bring the show back if it was to come back on any kind of people shout out all kinds of replacement options for Netflix. So, but really that's not for us to know or decide, especially because there are so many moving parts that people don't think about when they're like, oh yeah, just go to Tubi or go to wherever, go to Twitch and do this, or Shout Factory and their streaming service. There's a lot more to it than just go here and make these things, because it takes a lot. I got to visit the set, so yeah, it's a lot. Yeah,
I would love to see the set up close. I mean, that I envy you there more than I can say.
I still kind of get goosebumps from it, because I've always loved behind the scenes stuff and seeing how TV shows are made and movies, and I've always kind of wanted to just visit a set to visit it. And then when I got the opportunity to go for season 12, I was like, yes, please. I don't care. Like, take my money. Oh, I'm still probably paying off that credit card, but it was really worth it, because it hit like 2 bucket lists at one time. And yeah, you do not know the amount of work that goes into our show, goes into this show. But also, and it's a minimalist show. It's very, again, a majority of this show is watching the movies. I'm just talking about the skits in between, the host segments and things like that. It's intense. Jonah has a stand-in. Like, when they're just trying to, okay, we got to frame this shot, we got to do it this way. They have some guy dressed in a yellow jumpsuit about Jonah's height, and he just stands there. And so they can get their lighting correctly and all that. So, and the props that they make, it's really insane what goes into it. And again, I think a lot of people don't realize the work that goes into it. They just expect magic and boom, we have new episodes. It doesn't work like that. But no, it was amazing just to be on the set. Of course, I got to meet all the actors except for Patton. He was just about 20 feet away from me at the craft service table, but he's the only one I have not met. But it was a couple days. It was a magical couple days to be on that set. I got interviewed for the bonus features on the DVD that the pledge drive or the Kickstarter, whoever got, but I'm on a DVD.
Cool.
It's kind of crazy. So, yeah, if there ever comes a chance again, as much as I would want to do it, because it does cost money. It's not like you just get to go. I think I would actually probably skip it so that another fan could go, as much as I would want to go. But, so somebody else could have that experience. If they've got the money to spend, let them do it. So, yeah.
So you're not going to pay their way, I guess.
Oh, I wish I could. Again, when I become rich and famous,
Mm-hmm.
I will help all the MSTies in the world. I don't know. But I would just say, like, instead of taking that spot, if somebody else was able to do it, I would want someone else to experience what it's like to be on the set of MST3K. It still blows my mind, and it's been well over 2 years, I think. So, yeah. So,
Well, we're going to have to get an airplane and paint it up like your purple dress and give it a little hat.
Definitely. And I will just fly. Well, I'll have to get my pilot's license. And then that way I could just fly around everywhere and take people places. So, yeah. When I win the lottery, never going to happen.
But if we could, dial it back just a bit, what are you working on now that it should bring fans together to keep the community going?
Well, of course, I have a big online presence. The singles group, which was kind of what really got me into it, is I took over the singles group, and then I was just like, well, I'm going to go in all these other groups and promote this. And so there's a singles group. We have some watch-togethers. We watch online, watch MST3K, Rift Tracks, Cinematic Titanic, Agonywolf Media. If you don't know about them, they're a great group of guys who are fans of the show, and they did kind of a fan homage. Do you know about them, Aaron? I think
I don't actually.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Bring me in, please.
Okay, so Agonywolf Media is essentially a kind of, they started as a fan tribute to MST3K, and essentially it's a very similar show. Instead of being in space, they're stuck in a zombie apocalypse. And it's Rick Wolf, who is a commander in like one of the zombie killing squads. And he has two robot friends. One of them is Topsy, TopsyBot 5000. He's a popcorn can. And then Johnny Cylon, and he's just kind of a robot. And so, yeah, they're forced to watch bad movies to avoid the zombie apocalypse. And they did some bad movies. They actually did riff one of the shorts prior to the Rift Tracks guys riffing the short about C&B Scene, the one with the talking cars. That one was just, yeah. So, but now they've kind of migrated more into riffing video games. They do a lot of live streams on Twitch. And yeah, they're more into doing video games now. They found it was more of a market for them, but their older work is really great. And even, yeah, if you like people playing video games and making great jokes, these guys are hilarious. Then yeah, definitely check out Agonywolf Media, Facebook, just Google it, it'll come up. But yeah, they're fans of the show. Many people were like, oh, they're a ripoff and blah, blah. No, they kind of started out with the MST3K format, but they've gone into something well on their own, and they're doing really good at it. So yeah, check out Agonywolf Media.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to put
better
all
give me
this...
some money for this promo.
At the very least, it'll be in the show notes. So if anybody wants to check out that or any of the other groups that you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah, I can get you all the links. So one of my favorite things to do is I do gift exchanges amongst the MST3K fans. We do 3 of them a year. Of course, we have a Secret Santa gift exchange at Christmas time. For my singles group, we have a Creepy Cupid, and that's just for the singles group, so they can get something nice for Valentine's Day. And then we have a Christmas in July gift exchange, and I invite all the MSTies to come in, and they fill out a form. I mean, it's just like a Secret Santa you would do in your office, except for it's, online and across the country. We had someone from Peru participate. Well, he's a MSTie who's like in Peru working. I think that was the furthest away we've ever sent stuff. But yeah, and I swap up the names, and people send gifts. They make homemade things. They make cookies. It's just really fun to help brighten the day of other fans in just some little way. I don't participate because, I wouldn't know the secret. But I do get some cool stuff too. Like I got that from a fellow fan who participated. Brent, I see you. So that's one of my favorite things to do is facilitate that, because people not only they get joy in buying gifts for other folks, and then they, get joy in receiving. And people were like, "Oh my goodness, this person lives in my hometown, and maybe they connect on a different level." So that's one of my favorite things. I think my other thing is I try to do meetups. Obviously, I'm here in Denver now, and so I'm trying to do more meetups locally. We tend to meet up before Rift Tracks shows, the Rift Tracks live shows that they do. We had 2 meetups. The tour just came through here over Valentine's Day weekend, and a big group. There was like almost 20 of us who met up before the show in Denver, and then in Colorado Springs we met up, and just I've tried to help folks in other parts of the country do meetups as well before like the tour or something like that. Like, you pick a casual bar and grill, you grab a table for 8 people, you have a drink, people order their food as they want, separate tickets. It's just, again, a way for local MSTies to, people think, oh, I live in Podunk wherever, there's no other fans near me. Now, granted, there are lots of podunk places that you have to drive an hour or so to, get to other fans or a place that would be more populated, but they're out there, especially like in big cities. I mean, Norman, I know my cousin, you live there. My cousin's a fan. So I know that there are people out there. It's just a matter of getting them connected. And I like being able to do that online and in person, of course. So yeah, the meetups are a really big part of what I do to be that fan ambassador, I guess. Because I just want folks to, again, relationships that kind of start with being like-minded and liking the show, and then you move on and like, oh yeah, you're obviously a Trek fan, Aaron, right?
True.
I got my Captain Janeway up here. She's my girl,
Mm-hmm.
So and then we could go off and talk about Star Trek. And I think that's really I don't want to call us nerds, but we are, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. It's everyone has their level of nerddom, mm-hmm. And usually we're very socially awkward. I think, like many, I like to label myself an introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert. Normally, I just want to kind of keep to myself, but when I find something that really makes me want to be extroverted, I do it. And that's hard for a lot of people. And if I can kind of get beyond my introvertedness and want to participate with other folks, it helps encourage other people to kind of get out of their shell as well. Because a lot of us are single, have a hard time kind of meeting new people. So again, whether it's online or able to meet in person, starting with the common thread of MST3K, people can make relationships beyond that that enhance their lives. Mm-hmm. Wow, I sound like Dr. Phil.
Well, no, I'm actually really thinking that we're going in a great direction here. Because I have not been to one of your meetups, but
yes.
I'm going to assume that when these people get together, they are a motley group. They are a bunch of people who normally wouldn't really be in the same room together by choice.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have people from all walks of life. Mm-hmm. And they do. Yeah. We get together. You have a good time. And you learn about other people. And these people are, in your area. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. You live down the street from my grandma. Example, Colorado Springs meetup. Mm-hmm. My good friend Ben Hassler was there. I had some other new MSTies who I hadn't met yet, and they're like, "You're Ben Hassler, right?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "We go to church with your brother." So it's like small world, but you just got to make those connections to get people together. So, but yeah, once you put it out there, the more people you get, and then they tell 2 friends, and they tell 2. You know how the Wayne's World goes. So.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is people who don't have anything in common find one thing they do have in common, and one thing becomes 3 things, becomes 5 things. They stop thinking, I don't have anything in common with this person, and they find reasons to have something in common with these people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what being a neighbor is about on the internet these days. It's about not thinking in terms of geography, thinking in terms of we're all in this together in some way or another.
Yes, very much so. Because, we've all, I know that, like, you interviewed Zoe, who I know the show has helped her a lot with her mental illness, and I know myself included, and thousands of other people who really thank MST3K and Joel and Riffing for saving their lives in many of their dark times. So, you know, having that connection where we all know, like, this is that central thing that, you know, makes us laugh, makes us feel good. And you can take that feel good and then meet other people who have that feel good and they like other things. Oh, guess what? Yeah. Hey, I love sushi. You love sushi. Let's go hang out and have some sushi. You know, things like that. And it makes life better.
We hear so much about how the internet is cutting down on our social skills and how it's taking away the ability to just have a conversation because we're all sitting here looking at our phones, not talking to each other. And that's not wrong. But
it's not.
But there's opportunities that we're not thinking of that you are thinking.
Thank you. Try. But
right.
No, exactly. You know, I love the meme that, you know, I think on the top it says, you know, oh, we're all connected to our phones, but then the bottom panel is someone's texting the person they love, or someone's looking at dogs. Who doesn't like puppies? You know, yes, social media and the internet can be a toxic place, but that's if you allow yourself to go to those places and, you know, keep putting out that toxicity. If you try to use it for a positive reason to connect with other human beings, whether it be just online. I have a lot of online friends who I've never met. I probably never will, but, you know, we're friends. We chat every day, talk about this, that, you know, oh, how's the job going? You know, just sometimes venting to a stranger on the internet is very therapeutic, and people don't think about that. You know, a lot of us don't have an outlet like that. So if, like I said, you start with kind of that one common thing of MST3K, and it can branch off into a full-fledged, you know, friendship, relationship. People. My singles group have gotten married. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
It is.
That people can make that kind of connection just because of one show. So, yeah. But yeah, it could be bad. It could be good. It's really kind of like life. It's what you choose to make of it. If you want to be in your dark clouds and your rain, it's going to be rainy and dark clouds. But if you want to try to be a little bit brighter and put out some positivity, it will come back to you tenfold.
And just for context here, this is the first time you and I have talked face-to-face per se. We're doing it online, but we're having a conversation.
We are,
And yet we have been going back and forth in the same social circles online since the Kickstarter in one form or another.
You helped me with my computer. Didn't you help me with one of my tech issues one time?
I completely forgot about that.
That was forever ago. But so exactly, you know, I posted something. You're like, "Oh, I have knowledge in this. Let me help you out." That's to me kind of how social media works in a positive way.
It is.
You know, oh, hey, recommend a restaurant for me. Somebody tells you where to go eat sushi, and then, you know, you found something new because of somebody on the internet, or you learned something new. You really just have to use it for good and not evil.
One thing, because the podcast has made me use Twitter far more than I had before the podcast started.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And people have been, you know, you get into the Twitter quagmire, people trolling, and I've been saying, you have the right to not take part in any conversation you don't deem worthy of your time.
Exactly.
If somebody says something stupid and rude, you just walk away from the keyboard. You don't even have to say goodbye. You just stop the conversation.
Yeah, because they're somewhere else out in the world, and they're not in front of your face, where, yes, it would be a little bit more difficult to deal with something like that. So maybe that does take down our ability to deal with confrontations in person, but it also does teach you a lesson that, yes, I can walk away from this. I don't have to engage this person, whether they're honestly trying to make their point, or like you said, if they're just trolling and being a dickweed to be a dickweed. And if that's what gets their rocks off, that's completely on them. But no, you do not have to reply. You don't have to read the comment section. I think that's what a lot of celebrities, obviously, you know, I quit reading the comment section for a long time ago. Or, I mean, how else your self-esteem would just drop dramatically. So, you do not have to engage with that negativity, you know, and it's hard. Oh, it's extremely hard not to just, especially, Misty fans we're very sarcastic people.
Mm-hmm.
But online that can be taken, many ways. And I've seen it in the groups and stuff. Someone who makes a quip, not really thinking how it might bother somebody else. But you have to be able to go, okay, this is just another person on the internet. If it's somebody then yeah, that's on you. But you have to be able, to walk away from situations that are going to go downhill and not end well for anybody and waste your time and energy. So, no, not worth it.
It really isn't.
Don't feed the trolls. That's the summation of that.
It's one of the reasons I'm grateful for the revival, because I think we needed to have a quick glimpse into what Mystery Science Theater would think of the world we're in today.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. A lot of their, because I am a younger fan, I'm not saying, but,
That's okay.
I
get it.
I'm 39. So a lot of the references that Joel makes, especially, and then Mike, are kind of that era. I don't get. I've gotten kind of, as I've gone back and maybe rewatched episodes, I'm like, oh, okay, now I know what they're talking about. Whereas with the revival, there were still some ones I'm like, I don't know, I don't get it. But there was a lot more current riffs. I think one of my favorite riffs from the new season is in The Land That Time Forgot. And it's the beginning scene where we're watching, the credits are coming. And Joel says, or excuse me, not Joel, Jonah says, not enough movies use the Jimi Hendrix font, because it's a font that looks very much similar to a Jimi Hendrix album, which he's like one of my favorite artists. So, the fact that he can use the word font and people would know what it means, whereas the show in the 80s and 90s, people didn't know what a font was, at least not commonly. Of course, computer folks did, but, I wouldn't have known back then. So little things like that really help, like you said, kind of bring it more into this time. Talked about what was a radio? Is a podcast that you could turn off and on or something. I can't remember that riff, but yeah, that's how it kind of made it a little bit more modern, and I think reached a lot of new fans too. So that was really, I think, beneficial for the show, and what it's brought to today. So yeah.
So when it comes to the non-MST3K riffing shows, starting with, I guess the first was kind of the film crew, moving on to cinematic Titanic riff tracks. What was your take on that? Because if you really found the fandom during the dark era during the hiatus, how did you see the different spin-offs, and what was your take on those?
Well, I didn't really see a lot of cinematic Titanic until about 6 years ago. I knew about them, but I hadn't really watched them. Whereas the film crew, I actually got a hold of a couple of their DVDs in the early 2000s. And, granted, it wasn't the same, no silhouettes, things like that, but it was still riffing. And then, of course, once Riff Tracks came out, what was their first show? It was Plan the Nine. I was there. I wasn't in Nashville, or I don't know if it was Nashville when they first started. Either way, I went to my local broadcast, and yeah, I cried. I cried because I were seeing people who I had such an affection for, and the show. I'm a Mike girl through and through. I'll be happy to admit that. So seeing Mike and Kevin and Bill up there on the stage, like in person, I cried. I remember crying in the theater. I was just so happy to see something that I had loved for so long kind of making a comeback. And I'm so happy for Riff Tracks and what they've continued to do over the past, well over 10 years. This is their 8th Kickstarter. So it's really great to see these guys continue to stretch their comedy legs and, and still be into it. I can understand if you've done something for 20 years, maybe you don't want to do it anymore. Maybe you want to sell balloons in the park. I don't know. But it really, it helped me know that this was still an ongoing thing. And that riffing will never die. I mean, granted, Joel is kind of known as the father of riffing, but people have been making fun of stuff forever.
Mhm.
He just took it and kind of put it in this little great show, and it became what it is today. Again, with the spin-offs, with the film crew, Cinematic Titanic, and the riff tracks that again is still going. Cinematic Titanic, I will say, with all of them, because there was what, 5 of them, a lot of voices
Mhm.
that it's kind of hard to adjust to. But that's just a personal preference. I know lots of people who loved. I mean, I've got the box set. So, and they did movies that that MST3K hadn't done, that Riff Tracks hasn't. They haven't been re-riffed. I really wish I had been a part of, more active. I was still kind of young. I was, got out of high school. Was in the Coast Guard, so I was kind of still in flux of living my adult life. But I really wish I could have, gone to the Cinematic Titanic live shows that they would do and meet them back then. I've, of course, met everyone since then, but, to be a part of that era of the fandom as well would have been really cool. But I'm very thankful that I've brought myself back into the fold, I guess, and have become so active now. I recommend anybody, grab a hold. Rue McClanahan, okay, from the Golden. She's in. Oh God, I can't remember the
Rue
name.
McClanahan stripping. Yep.
Yes, I think that's all you need. That's all you
Yep.
need to know. Go check it out. Hollywood Nights. No,
Hollywood
something
After
about Hollywood.
Dark.
Thank you. Yes, there you go. So go check that out if you haven't already. Again, film crew, I want a plug here.
Mhm.
I want some free swag.
You should be able to find that DVD somewhere fairly cheap.
I'm sure you can. Amazon's amazing.
Yeah.
They've got all kinds of stuff. So definitely check out the film crew. It's a different take. I mean, it's still riffing, but it's nice to see Kevin, Mike, and Bill in a different kind of role, so to speak. So yeah, check out the film crew.
And
Check out Riff Tracks. And Riff Tracks. Make sure you check out Riff Tracks.
Riff Tracks was at the same time that the do-it-yourself aspect of Riff Tracks was the best and worst part of it. I always thought, because
you mean the iRiffs, where people would.
That too.
Sorry,
I had done a few of those.
Okay.
They're actually on my YouTube channel, of the ones that I thought were good enough to not, make me want to hang myself over. But the fact that you would sync the movie to the DVD, and then they just released shorts by themselves.
The shorts by themselves. Just the riffs. So you can go rent the Matrix, or many of us probably own it, and you can sync it with. They have an app, or if you look it up on your phone some other way, or your computer. That was ingenious, because that got around the having to pay licensing for these movies. I think that was a huge that was smart.
It was smart, and it hit in the late 2000s at this time when it was like everybody had a computer, everybody had a DVD player, and they were just comfortable enough with it that they would give this a shot. And I think if they started that now with no history, it probably wouldn't fly as much.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. It grabbed that early 2000s millennial, why not give this a try mentality.
Yes, exactly. Are you millennial? I'm a millennial. I'm like I'm a beginning millennial.
I didn't know until you said you were 39, but we're actually the same age.
See?
I'm going to turn 39 in just a few weeks, in early June.
Yep, my birthday's in January, so I beat you. So we're like the beginning of the millennial.
Yeah.
But everybody has these DVDs. If you don't have, Triple X on DVD, who even are you? No, I'm kidding. That Vin Diesel movie. But the Twilight series, and especially doing those series that came out later in the 2000s, brilliant. I mean, Harry Potter. Even if you love Harry Potter, and I know, I'm not like a Potterhead, but I like the Harry Potter movies. They're entertaining. But it's still great for riffing. Twilight, people loved it. Most of us didn't care for it, but riffing on it deserved it. Doing all the Star Wars things like that. Again, things that are near and dear to many of our hearts. But it's still funny. They're not poking fun at it in a mean way. like, oh, this sucks. And no, it's laughing with it, so to speak. So
well, and those were the two challenges that Riff Tracks grabbed that MST3K kind of sidestepped.
yeah.
One was, instead of just focusing on bad movies, they took the challenge of doing good movies. They did do Casablanca, if I remember correctly.
Yes, they did, and that's an acclaimed picture.
Yeah.
It was in Overdrawn at the Memory Bank.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rift. You can't show a good movie in the middle of your bad movie. So no, they have taken on classics. Wizard of Oz. But
Gone with the Wind.
Yes, there are just still there's still funny things that can be found in classics that are beloved by everyone. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't like Wizard of Oz, and if you do, I don't want to talk to you. So,
and they when you riff the entire DVD uncut, you don't have the option to like take out a part that wouldn't work so well. You have to find a joke to go there somewhere.
Exactly. They can't like some of the more they do weekly releases now on Friday. They'll put out new ones. I can't remember what just came out, but they can cut those because they're coming with the movie and the jokes. Whereas when you buy just the jokes, they can't tell you to stop, fast forward your DVD to the next scene because that's where it's funnier. Nope, they got to make something, or it's just dead air, and that's good. You let your jokes breathe, but you can't edit Wizard of Oz. Like that. So, or maybe that's not the good example, but yes.
Well, it's. I just like the way that they took the format, they did something different with it, and that's still going. MST3K is a concept that can be reiterated over and over again for different purposes.
Yes, most definitely. And I know that that's Joel's vision. I happened to be I was at the Q&A that they did in Colorado Springs, and he said, similar to Doctor Who, but, it's not about Joel, and it's not about Mike, and it's not about Jonah. It's about this concept that can be, like you said, taken through different iterations, different hosts, different, we could look ahead 30 years. Jonah will be old. So, they could continue just bring in new people and keep this concept going. I'm sure there is not a lack for bad B movies that we haven't seen riff yet.
No.
And then also ones that could be re-riffed. I know the Riff Tracks Kickstarter, they're re-riffing Hobgoblins this year. And several people were disappointed. They're like, oh, it's already been done. Well, yeah, it was done back in 1990, 2000, whatever. It's 2020. There's so many new riffs and jokes that could be made. So I have no problem with them re-riffing movies that we've seen riffed before, because sometimes they're the funniest because it's new stuff.
If you have a problem with somebody re-riffing the movie, you have to ask yourself, how many times have you watched Manos? How many times have you watched Hobgoblins? I'm good for at least 5 or 6 on each of those two myself.
Yes,
I could use some new jokes. I have no problem with that.
Right. We still love our class, vote for Ronald Reagan, do a lot of coke or whatever. My favorite is itchy, itchy, itchy. My pantyhose are itchy from a Space Mutiny. But yeah, I don't understand. I guess I'm not a big complainer about things, so I don't get why people complain. But hey, to each their own. But yeah, I have no problem with re-riffing or with other groups riffing things that have already been riffed, because they'll be coming at it from a different perspective, different mindset. Younger folks, in their 20s and 30s now, riffing on something would have a different look at it than, say, Mike and Joel, people who are not older, but an older generation. So to me, by all means, if it makes you happy and you want to go out there and make fun of a bad movie that 20 other people have already done, do it. I'm not going to stop you. So yeah, re-riffs are fine. Don't worry about the re-riffs. I'm excited to go see Hobgoblins, actually. So
I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, I got the VIP, so I think this is my chance to cosplay as Daphne. So yeah, I want to.
You will be posting pictures of that, right? I mean,
yes, there will be. Come on now. When have I not posted pictures? Yeah, pictures, video. Again, part of it is, I get to do the VIP and meet them and be in the front row, but it's, again, hanging out with a theater full of people who love this show and this concept, who love riffing as much as I do. And it just really, it brings people together. It's, I love this show.
And the show just brings that together, that brings out that passion in people that they want to commune over it.
Yes, exactly. And they want to get together. And if it, it's very, I know that, obviously Star Trek is a big like fan get together kind of thing. But at least what I see on and I'm a big Facebook person. That's pretty obvious. That's kind of, I tweet sometimes, but I'm more definitely on Facebook. I don't see people talking about, oh, let's all get together and go to this Star Wars thing. And maybe they're out there, but
they are.
Okay. They don't listen to me. But it's a niche, of course. There aren't a lot of MSTies, but there are, and we just got to find each other. And then, of course, we then go on to be Trekkies and pull in all our other fandoms as well. Like maybe I found a new show on Adult Swim that I think you'll think is hysterical, or it has a connection with MST3K. Dan Harmon from Rick and Morty, he wrote for season 11. So it's kind of like these, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you get to something that maybe you didn't know about. And you're like, oh, well, cool. I'll have to check that out. Just community.
So, going to throw this one out at you. Are you or were you a Beavis and Butthead fan?
Yeah. Me and my dad used to watch it. Yeah, I understand. They used to essentially rip on movie videos.
They did.
Music videos, yeah.
When MST3K was still in its prime, everybody in our age group, because we were in high school then, was saying, you'd explain it like Beavis and Butthead, they're just ripping them off. No. Okay.
They were doing it first.
They were doing it first.
Beavis and Butthead,
yeah. I do, but it's like people would just be like, and I used to resent Beavis and Butthead for the longest time, even though I watched it anyway.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, my show did this first. You guys are just, but what you're saying is even better. It's like people find something they like, they make a connection, and that's the beauty of it. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just how people form relationships.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Big Beavis and Butthead. My dad and I used to watch it because it was very much our sense of, sarcastic sense of humor. And I loved the Beavis and Butthead movie.
That was a great movie.
That was a great movie. I had the shirt and everything. But no, it's again, taking something that you love and being able to connect it along to something else that you might discover, a new person you're gonna meet. You never know where the show will take you. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I'm gonna get goosebumps. I can tell you, I'm gonna cry too. When I moved to Oklahoma, however many years, I never thought I'd be sitting here right now talking to you about MST3K. I never in a million years thought that I would have met, my comedic idols, people again who I have such affection for because they help, bring joy into my life. But how much my life has changed because of the connections that I made with people because of this show. I have to give a shout out to Greg Talley. I mean, if it wasn't for him, kind of seeing a potential in me with when I was doing my Facebook groups and stuff, that he's like, hey, come do this with us and check this out. And the Turkey Day, obviously our Turkey Day meetup that we have here in Denver, had I not just gotten the bug and just said, hey, I'm going to drive all the way to Colorado and meet up with strangers. Some of them, yes, I met on the internet or interviewed kind of like this, but and I did it, and I forced myself out of that box of, I'm just going to sit here and not try to meet new people. I got out there, I met them, and it changed my life. And it all started with having a love of riffing. And I couldn't be happier. I mean, Oklahoma's great and all, but it wasn't a fit for me. And moving here and continuing to be a part of the fandom, making new friends, getting together for the Damn Duty Drive-In podcast that I, do with them. It's really, this show changed my life. But it was because of the people that I met because of the show. So that kind of leads back into how I'm just a bit, that to me, the show is an amazing show and it's funny, but it's how it's the people that I've met because of the connection of this show. And I know that's the same for many other people. Oh, I'm going to cry.
No. See, I am astonished. Again, we've never had a back and forth like this here, but your story is remarkably similar to mine. Yeah. I moved here from Pennsylvania in 2006 during the dark hiatus. And I mean, I had many friends here. It's not like I was alone or anything, but I spent a good amount of time in that first apartment with a wall full of MST3K DVDs, just kind of remembering the old days. And had it's been at that, I would have been happy because I still had my 10 years of the show.
Yeah.
And then in the intervening years, we had the spin-offs. I started meeting other fans. I started recruiting other fans. I wasn't a fan ambassador, but I introduced people to the show. And then I'm meeting the cast. I'm going to live shows. I'm taking part in events. I sponsor the restoration of Manos. I fund the Kickstarter. And it's like, and I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't moved to Oklahoma, but it put me in the right place at the right time in a way I never expected.
Exactly. That's very much so. It's great when the stars align like that, and it literally changes your life. It's a life-changing thing that when you really sit down and look at it, it's like, oh my heart, it's amazing, and I'm very thankful. I'm very blessed, and I'm very happy. And
I'm happy.
That's all I want. And that's all I want for everybody. I want everyone to find their happiness, whether it's through the show or a connection you make with the show. And I think again, I use the show more of kind of a platform to meet other people and help them continue. Anytime that I can bring a smile to somebody else's face, even if it's just because I'm smiling, that's all I need. So, yeah.
I would feel guilty if we didn't leave it at this point, because that's the most perfect way to sum up everything we're talking about here.
Thank you.
But I want to definitely make sure that people can get in touch with you any way they can. So where can we follow you?
Oh, my goodness. Everywhere. Just essentially, if you Google Deana Dolphin, Deana Dolphin, my Facebook comes up, my Twitter comes up, Instagram, it's pretty much all at Deana Dolphin. And you can find me. Friend me up. I still got a few friend spots left in my 5,000 on Facebook. But that's the best way to get a hold of me. If you're in the Denver area, definitely get a hold of me. Meetup.com. I don't know. I do have a meetup.com with Colorado. I don't know if you search my name how that works. But I guess, I don't know. I just feel like I'm like in the internet. Like I am the internet, and people will come and find me.
You're 100% right. If somebody searches for you, they will find you.
Yeah, they will.
I'm in the show notes at aaronbossick.com. I will make sure that I list the singles group for MST3K.
Thank you.
Any other groups that you're mainly a part of. Send me those links, and I'll make sure they get posted.
Most definitely. Yeah, I've got a lot.
Yeah, I know, and it would be too long to list them all here, but they will be in the show notes of this episode. And I would like to swing back and update those notes when I see that costume of you in the Hobgoblins girl outfit.
Yes, I'm gonna.
Yeah, let's get those on there too.
Yeah, of course. This has been fun. Thank you.
It has been fun. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Finally, yes, I am too. And next time I'm in Oklahoma, I'm looking you up, and we're gonna come down here and take me to a good place for lunch.
I get to Denver more often than I would admit, so we'll talk about that
too. Even better. Okay, good.
Okay, so you watch out for snakes.
Huzzah!